Hi there, it's Blair here at Time Trades. Thanks for joining me this weekend. Okay, so we've got lots to cover as usual. We've got a new innovation to share with you. And before we get to that, we're going to kick it off with a review of what we talked about last weekend. Now, last weekend, we were making a forecast really based on three things. The first was a lunar eclipse that was happening Sunday. The second thing was this cheat code purple line day that was also happening on Sunday night. And then the third was the moon moving into Capricorn, which has been the basis of recent dumps lately. So the eclipse and the cheat code purple line day, the eclipse was a bit of a wild card. We never really know what to expect. My astrologer friend said it had a number of negative aspects associated with it. But in my personal experience, while eclipses may affect other aspects of life, they don't tend to directly affect financial asset prices all that much. And that's what we saw again this weekend. Eclipses don't seem to have a direct effect. They may have an indirect effect by identifying some hotspots that become activated in the future, but we didn't see much of a direct effect. And also same thing with the cheat code. That's a purple line day. Typically with a cheat code, we see a pump and dump type action. Now we got a solid pump coming up into this purple line here on the 15th. But the dump was pretty weak, and it was caught by the magic level here at 12,200. But then the third thing we talked about was the moon shifting into Capricorn, and that really activated the dump and dropped down really hard through one magic level and all the way down to 11,700. Bit of a rebound here, and then Friday was very active, even though it was monthly options expiration, with a big dump down through the magic level and then a late recovery. Okay, so where does that leave us? Actually, before I talk about where that leaves us, I want to share with you kind of how I came up with this moon and Capricorn thing. And it really, there's nothing special to that forecast, right? It's just a matter of having the moon moving into different signs visible on your screen and going back and looking at price action. It's nothing more complicated than that. And we go back and we look at, oh, look, here's April 20th, moon moves into Capricorn, and then there's a purple line day, and then we get a massive dump, right? It's really that simple. And then we can scroll back some more and see what happened in other situations. If we go back to March 24th, we really didn't get that, right? We didn't really get that same kind of big decline behavior. Now, why is that? I can't answer that for sure, but my theory is that it's because we crossed this medium pivot here. And the medium pivot is what I talked about last week. Last week, it was called a likely pivot day. Since then, I've added some new features to it, which, to avoid confusion, I decided to rename likely pivot days to a medium pivot, because I also introduced these things called small pivots. I'll get to small pivots in a second, but it really seems like the behavior of the lunar signs tends to change a little bit once you cross a medium pivot day. And after this medium pivot day on April 5th, we see moon in Capricorn being pretty strongly correlated with this strong decline here on April 22nd. And then again, it happened over here on May 18th. Now, I want to caution you from assuming that moon in Capricorn is always bad. It's not that simple, okay? So one of the things you're going to have to figure out is, kind of where we are in this medium pivot cycle. Do we have enough history to make some projections or forecasts based on what happened in earlier in the medium pivot cycle? So that was really the basis for this. That's it. It's nothing fancy. There's no machine learning. Anyone can do this. Now, the other thing that I found super interesting here was this moon void of course time period that was here that in back on May 9th. Okay, so we're going to zoom into this and we can put in some horizontal lines here, horizontal rays around this, because the way these tend to work is what you want to do is identify the price range during that moon void of course. And you can see how this is super interesting because we got this price range here and it was about 418 points. But then if we clone that measurement and drag it down here, it declined by almost exactly another 418 points below it. And it just to tag this level here. And then it came back up into the void of course, poked its head above it, and then declined strongly below it. So the price action in this very wide void of course, you know, these levels became very significant. They identified very strong resistance levels up here at 12,558, very strong support levels down here, 12,140. Provided a little bit of support here at the end of the void of course, but the point is once it got penetrated right around here on May 11th, it was going to the next magic level below, right? So mark these on your chart. And I think the takeaway here is that these very wide void of course levels are much more important than say these super narrow ones, right? So you can see this actually engulfed 1, 2, 3 void of course levels. So the wide one definitely took precedence and it has been dictating the price action really for the last couple of weeks. So I found that super interesting. Okay, so let's talk about this new thing I created called the small pivots. Now, the small pivots you can think of as like the little brother of medium pivots. It's the same kind of idea, but just with smaller, faster cycles, okay? These are calculated very accurately down to a 4-minute basis. And the medium pivots are calculated on a 1-hour basis. So the location of the medium pivots are accurate within an hour. So one of the things I found with these small pivots is we zoom out here. Let's zoom out to say 4 hours. And if we zoom out and you take a look at this decline since April 5th, it's so this was really identified by the medium pivot up here that kicked it off. And then we see a small pivot correlating with this, with a handful of green bars here right around April 7th. And again, this correlates with price right at a magic level. Okay, so we've got time, we've got price coming together, hard move down. And then we've got another small pivot hitting here April 19th. No magic level around, but eventually it did pivot price, kicked in right around that cheat code, boom. Then it touched the next magic level down, okay? And then we got our third small pivot here. And this correlated with price at a magic level. And again, we saw price reverse down hard off that magic level. And then we had this fourth small pivot here. And this was actually one of the things that gave me a lot of confidence about that moon in Capricorn forecast, is that I knew that it was going to correlate with the small pivot. In fact, this was kind of like my own personal test to see if I was going to release small pivots to the world or not. I wanted to see how this thing actually worked. And it passed the test. price pivoted within, about 2 4-hour bars of the actual small pivot. And then the moon moved into Capricorn, and then we got that big dump. So these innovations, I don't just kind of like code them up and put them out there and cross my fingers and hope they work. I actually use them personally before I add them into the Time Trade script. So this passed the quality assurance test, if you want to call it that. And it gave me confidence to add it to the Time Trade script. So now we're here, we're at a medium pivot. And the last time we had one of these was back April 5th. And you can see how effective that was. That came into effect right with price at a major white magic level. We're nowhere near a major white magic level here, but we are still near an orange one. And Friday, we saw price poke below it, but then close slightly above that magic level. So this is really interesting price action coming basically right on the day of a medium pivot. So expectations for Monday, I think because of the new options regime that's in place since we just had monthly OPEX, I think we're going to see another bit of a move down Monday morning, but I'm expecting a reversal sometime Monday or Tuesday as this medium pivot takes effect, right? I've got a lot of confidence in these medium pivots because of their track record, just from visual inspection and also from incorporating them into the machine learning. All right, so the other thing, like the whole behavior coming up into this week really reminded me of what happened back in January 24th. Now, January 24th, I talked about this last week. I'm going to talk about it again. This was a Monday after a monthly OPEX, and it's right near a monthly pivot. Okay, so this is a few bars after a monthly pivot, and we saw a big reversal on Monday, January 24th. So that's kind of my, I guess, the basis for this forecast. I see that as a strong proxy for what may happen early next week. Okay, so looking ahead into the forecast, I think we're starting to see some signs of a potential reversal. Still think we're in a secular bear market for a while. However, these things never go straight down. If we look at the cues here, we can see there's declining down pressure early next week, and there's actually a pivot high coming into May 27th. All right, so this is indicating a potential for a reversal on Monday. If we look at things like the spiders, we can see, again, we've got that pivot high on May 25th later in the week, but it's a little more uneven in terms of the down pressure. The down pressure is actually increasing as well. So slightly more ambiguous in that forecast. So let's look at the diamonds. Diamonds have a couple of down days forecast, looks like Monday and Tuesday. And then the down pressure really backs off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So again, it looks like sometimes after a long decline, even just the absence of these down probabilities can indicate up days in the markets. Now, if we look at IWM, IWM is showing a pivot low on Monday, and then really not much after that. So there's not much information that we can glean here from either the probabilities of a move up or a move down. Okay, before we go on, there's one other thing I want to share with you, and that is the status of Mercury. So if we go in and turn on short-term waves, so the yellow wave is Mercury Speed, and we can see Mercury Speed is basically stopping its decline right now, and it's going to start increasing So often you can see this can tend to correlate with reversals in the market. We can see how that correlated back here with reversals in the market. So Mercury Speed's a very interesting indicator. It's part of the machine learning, so it's included in the probabilities, but it's also very useful to take a look at visually separately outside of the machine learning probabilities. So very important weekend happening right now with respect to Mercury Speed. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the other stocks, the components of the NASDAQ index. All right, I'm going to turn off short-term waves. Okay, here's Apple. Apple's got a pivot high coming up later this week and reducing probabilities of a move down. So this is starting to feel a little bit like a potential reversal. We also have this hollow here, this reduction in the probabilities of down moves. It'd be better if we saw some probabilities of up moves down here. We don't see that yet, but I think given where price is right now, sitting right on this magic level at 138, we may see another probe down on Monday, but it looks like we're getting close to the end of at least this wave in the decline. Let's take a look at Microsoft. Microsoft also is showing declining down pressure and a small pivot high on Friday. So again, that's kind of aligned with the rest of the forecasts. Google showing a big pivot low on Monday, Tuesday. Not much else to really talk about here with respect to Google. There's a lot of pivot lows, but again, remember, this doesn't mean that it's going lower and lower and lower. We don't know what price is going to be when it makes these potential pivot lows. So it could be actually, making a low and then a higher low and then a higher low over here. So we're not sure, but this is a pretty big hollow here in terms of the declining down pressure. So this could indicate a longer term move up covering multiple weeks. Okay, so that's, I wanted to cover Amazon next. Amazon, very similar to the rest. We've got a pivot high over here, not late this week, but the following week, June 6th. So that's interesting. And we're starting to see bits of up pressure appear as well. So we've got some pretty consistent but low probability up pressure. And we also see down pressure kind of decline after May 27th. So starting to look a little bit like a reversal here. Price-wise, Amazon's right at this white magic level at 2,200. So it would make a lot of sense if it reverses here. It really would, and we've got time with the medium pivot happening, and we've got price with Amazon being right at 2,200. So, I wouldn't sort of anticipate a huge move happening tomorrow, but if you start to see indications of this breaking out, it looks like it's got potential. Okay, so that's Amazon. All right, so let's talk next about crypto. We're going to take a quick look at Bitcoin. Okay, and Bitcoin's starting to show some pivot low potential here. So that's this weekend, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. And that is a good sign. And then the next pivot high coming up over here is for June 5th. So we're looking at a potential multi-week move up in crypto. So that's good. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum's much more ambiguous, but it's also right near this this white magic level at 2207. So as Bitcoin, if Bitcoin starts to move up as forecast, then I'd be a buyer of Ethereum as it breaks out over this white magic level. These are pretty significant price levels, and once Ethereum starts moving up and crossing magic levels to the upside, then that's a very bullish move, especially a white magic level here. So I'd keep an eye on that and jump on that as it breaks out above 2207. Okay, let's take a look at our Indian stocks before we close the call today. So we've last week we looked at Tata. So was it Tata Motors? It was TCS. Yes. Okay, so last week we looked at TCS, Tata Consultancy, and we made some bearish comments last week, and those came to fruition. And it looks like we're heading into a potential pivot low on Tuesday. But then there's a nice reduction in the down pressure coming up here. So I'd be on the lookout here for a recovery in Tata. Let's see, what does magic levels telling us? Yeah, so we're just below, we're kind of right in the middle of the magic level. In a perfect world, it would come down and bounce down here off of 3161, or it would reverse here and then cross this 3443 magic level. So anytime you see a stock crossing magic levels to the upside, that's definitely a bullish indicator. And that's what I'd be looking for here in Tata Consultancy. We also looked at GAIL. The GAIL forecast didn't turn out quite so well. We were looking at a continuation of the down move. We got some upwards chop instead. This kind of looks like a bear flag though, just from technical analysis. And we've got a steady kind of increase, although it's a little choppy, but there's definitely tends to be some big probabilities of down moves over the next 3 weeks. So I think the bearish forecast for GAIL would stay in place here until it can sort of prove itself with price. But right now, with this combination of probabilities of a move down, as well as these low probability pivot lows here, June 9th, June 15th, I'd have a bearish outlook for GAIL. And DABUR. So the DABUR forecast is really quite quiet. We've just got a very small probability of a pivot low May 24th and a low probability cluster of up moves here. Probably the most interesting thing here is this big pivot high on June 16th. So again, I take a look at those magic levels. Super interesting here. We've got a white magic level right at 521. If DABUR were to cross this on the upside, I'd definitely be a buyer, counting on this magic level pulling price up in combination with this low probability of up moves. Okay, so that's it for this week. Thank you for using Time Trades. I appreciate you, and I hope you had a great weekend, and good luck this week trading. Thank you. Bye now.